Today we have a unique personality in our midst, and without wasting much of our time, I'm just going to go straight into it. First, before we start, we would like you, man, to please introduce yourself to us on the show. God bless you.
Okay, thank you, sir. My name is Martina Blessing Lewis.
Okay, we welcome you to Encounter. We are glad that you
Thank
were
you.
able to make it here. We know you are very busy, but
Thank you,
thank you
sir.
for giving us this time and this privilege to speak with you.
Thank you.
Martina is also was the ex-wife of Daniel Abraham, and as you all know, we took it upon ourselves to do one or two investigations concerning the allegation made against the Church of Christ, especially against the Dunamis International Gospel Center, how the miracles performed there are fake or staged, and so many things that were being said. Um, we are already making our investigations, trying to bring the truth to light, and this is one of the reasons why we are speaking to his ex-wife here today. My first question to you will be, how did you meet your ex-husband, Abraham Daniel? Could you share with us about your journey with him from when you met him and when you became family?
Sure. Thank you. I met Abraham Daniel in Abuja, Wuse Market. He was operator at that time, had his phone booth where he was repairing phones and selling phones, MTN SIM cards, and all. He was one of the representatives, like a marketer to MTN at that time. It was in 2003, sometimes in August, and we courted for just 6 months. We got married in 2004 after the introductions and every other thing he did. Um, my late grandma of blessed memory was alive then, and it was a very funny journey, but it was good at that time because let me say, it may be one of the mistakes I would have made in my youth that I regretted so much. Well, I can't call it a regret now because I have five beautiful children out of that marriage. I have the marriage was blessed with four girls and a boy. My first just clocked 20. My second is 19. The third is will be 18 soon. My fourth will be 14 soon, and my son will be 8 soon. So we were blessed with four children. I used to be a very lovely person. One of the things that intrigued me about him was his calm nature at that time, and being a youth that was set on fire for Christ. Because I used to be a very heady child from secondary school, and it was just 2 years into my rededication into the Pentecostal, because I used to be a Catholic, that I met Abraham. And one of the things that made me to say this one is different from other relationship I had was because of his ideology about no sex before marriage. And I felt like this was truly a Christian, because he gave me the impression that he was from a Christian background, and just a young boy on fire for Christ, trying to find his feet. He told me how he was a missionary with Assemblies of God, and he gave up a lot of things just to pursue his passion for Christ. And we ended up in Dunamis maybe 4 years after the marriage. Yes, and that was how our journey with Dunamis Church started. Though I was a member, because my aunt They were one of the pioneer members of Dunamis at that time. So I used to, I was not so frequent, but then it was just like an off and on thing. But then when I got married and Abraham, we came to Dunamis through late Pastor Philip Abba. We started from Dunamis Karujikwe, where Abraham, Pastor Onfreke, Pastor Tayo, a whole lot of them were together at that time. So Pastor Philip Abba brought him in like someone he wanted to nurture like his son, because Abraham is he's a gifted person. If he hadn't derailed, he would have gone very far. But then one problem with Abraham is lack of focus.
So you both of you decided to join the Dunamis Church together, or it was just you pulling him there?
Well, that time, what led to my coming back to Dunamis Karujikwe was I was pregnant with my third child. Things were kind of hard. Feeding was a problem. Accommodation was a problem. A year before that time, Abraham had abandoned me and the children in Utuko and came to Abuja. So I was threatening to leave with my children, and then he called for us to come in 2006, January. So when we came to Abuja and, things were rough and all that, we found ourselves along the Kurudu axis. And that was how my 6th month into the pregnancy of my third child, I was on my way one of the days, truly, to go and have an abortion. And then, yes, I was on bike going to Nyanya to meet a friend. I turned and something pulled my eyes to the Dunamis signboard. So I told the bike to turn. We had gone very far. I said turn. It came, and then I asked to see the pastors. One of the assistant pastors then asked why I needed to see the pastor, and I explained my predicament, and he said I should hold on. Within 20 minutes, Pastor Philip Abba of blessed memory was in church with Pastor Ike, his assistant, and Pastor Tayo. I remember vividly. And then he introduced me to Pastor Solomon introduced me to Pastor Philip Abba, and he welcomed me. And that welcome was what gave me the comfort of, this is home, remain here. And I explained why I needed to see him. He prayed with me and told Pastor Ike to drive me home, know our house, and follow up on us, that he would like to know more about us. That was how the journey began. And he was a frequent visitor to the house. Late Pastor Philip Abba of blessed memory. He took us like his own. Followed up on my husband, my ex-husband, and then introduced him to the prayer department. And that was how his journey with the commission started. Pastor Philip Abba registered him with Dusom. All these happenings, Abraham never had a certificate. He came into Dunamis with no certificate. And Pastor Philip Abba referred him, broke protocols for Abraham's sake. When we were with the commission as pastors, some people used to make a jest of us, like a kind of favor where you know the experience with Baba and Mama. It be like saying I go cut soap for us. They used to use it as those that were close to him, yes, because he had his clique, of friends and all that. And it used to be very funny because truly Abraham experienced what we call unmerited grace and favor from Dr. Paul and Becky Enenche, because he is one pastor that he will make a mistake and others will make. It will cost them punishment and Abraham will be left scot-free. He was so dear to them that he could access Daddy at any time he needed to. That was the kind of favor we enjoyed. I remember one of the times when Abraham had an accident, just a minor accident with his car. And Daddy upgraded his then very small Mercedes car to an E-class Mercedes. When we were still in the bookshop, he was a minister at that time already. So Abraham came to Dunamis. I wish I had those pictures. He came to Dunamis with 1,002 shirts, with one canvas that my younger sister gave him. Abraham came. We came into the commission broken. We came into the commission hopeless, helpless. But Dunamis gave us a voice, gave us platform. And I am grateful to Daddy and Mommy. Any day, anytime. So I am surprised at the outbursts and the behavior, let me call it, from Abraham at this point. If anybody should do, I don't think it should be Abraham. If anybody should be after the commission in a negative way, not Abraham, because he was a beloved son. My children, myself, we enjoyed the privilege he enjoyed.
Okay, so wow. Okay, in your view, what do you think went wrong? What made you leave the commission? Was there a particular incident you remember, or series of them, that could lead to him turning against the church in such a way?
Now, the Bible says pride goes before a fall.
That's right.
One of the problem Abraham has is pride. And one of his many problems, he doesn't pick corrections. When this whole thing started in 2018, mildly, I sat him down. He is 2 years older than me. I sat him down and I said, Abraham, you need to retrace your step. My late grandma used to give me a proverb back then when I was growing. She said, if the cup that gave you water to drink when you were thirsty is dirty, you don't throw it away. Keep it. Even if you will not wash it, someone else will use it. For the fact that it once gave you water to drink, don't throw it away. Abraham, let me say, was impatient with process. When we were pastoring in New Cairo, we served in New Cairo for 4 years. Before we were posted to New Cairo, I remember very well the day he called me and said, Daddy asked him to go and preach in New Cairo on a Wednesday evening service, and that this could be like a tester to us being posted. I should pray for him. But that he was already in New Cairo. I said, okay. We had our prayer on phone, and on Thursday afternoon, the good news came that he should go to New Cairo and pastor the church with immediate effect. The way we moved from Lube, that period was as though they were pursuing us. And we went to New Cairo. Abraham's problem started when the euphoria of the moment caught up with him. Daddy, protocols here and there, and all those kind of things got into him. I don't think I really knew him in the 16 years that we were together, because there's something that if you want to know a person, give him two things: give him money, give him power.
That's right.
I think when Abraham tested money and power, it entered into him badly. Sometimes I used to say, I wish we were never posted from the headquarters. He would have remained as a minister and remained humble. But Abraham is someone who could have been tamed if money was not exposed to him, because he like I said, he is a good person. He is creative. He is a deep thinker, but he would have used it better if he was not listening to naysayers, and he didn't enter into the wrong association, and he didn't allow money to become the ruler of the day. Every organization has his or her policy. But Abraham does not want to be guided by the policy of dunamis.
He wants to be a freeborn.
He wants to be a freeborn. He wants to be a rebel. This was the beginning of the problem. And Daddy said, okay, since this thing has gotten into your head so much, come back to the headquarters. Maybe you were not well trained. Let's train you properly.
You before you go out.
His salary was not affected. Allowances were not affected. As a matter of fact, they said we should even get a house close to Area 1 and move from New Caro. I had no problem with it. Abraham had too many problems with it. Part of the problem is I cannot come and sit in the same office with pastors that were employed after me. So, a soldier man who was employed by the government can be recalled by the government at any time to redeploy to the headquarters. You don't detect for them what to do with you. So he said no, he wouldn't. I remember on 3 occasions Daddy called for him and said I should be there. And Abraham was complaining, this person is that, and Daddy said something. If garbage did not gather, flies will not perch. You have your own faults too, but that's not a problem. Anything that is the problem, we can work it out. Calm down and be still. You are already a son, loved by me and my wife. We will take care of you. We will make everything okay. He said he doesn't have food in the house. He doesn't have money. Daddy said money is not the problem. I remember that day vividly. Daddy gave him 50,000 and told them to give him a bag of rice. And told them to give him, Daddy even gave him more than that amount of money. Right in my presence. That occasion happened not once, not twice, not 3 times. Before he dropped his resignation letter, Abraham was not sacked.
With everything that's
Abraham was not sacked by the commission.
He left by himself.
Abraham was not sacked by the commission. I repeat it again. Abraham Daniel Eje was not sacked by Dunamis commission. Abraham resigned on his own accord. He made my second daughter to write his resignation letter. She was 12 at that time. Abraham was not sacked. I say it again. Abraham Eje Daniel was not sacked from Dunamis Church. He resigned on his own accord. And after his resignation, Mommy and Daddy refused to honor the resignation letter for many months.
They refused to accept.
The resignation letter for many months. He was still enjoying his salary and allowances. But he became he became aggressive. He wanted his payoff so badly because somebody sold the idea to him that they were going to give him millions of naira as a payoff. So that entered into him. Abraham was not sacked. I have mentioned it more than 5 times. He resigned. He was not retired. He resigned.
Okay. Now, wow, there's so much that people out there don't know, actually. Because this is my first time of hearing that he was not sacked. He resigned by himself, and for many months, that resignation was not even honored.
Yes.
And he's still being paid even after he tendered resignation.
Sure.
And all of that. He now claims to be an atheist. Was he always like that? Has he always been like that, or did something trigger this change? Secondly, how did you handle this shift? Because you were still married to him when he became an atheist, right? So,
Well, it started gradually from him reading different books, listening to different people. Some I was never comfortable with because I was born into a Christian home. I was raised by Christian parents. My late grandmom was a staunch Catholic. She trained me. She started from Methodist church. So I was born into Methodist and then to the Catholic church, and then I went to Living Faith on my own. From Living Faith to Dunamis. Abraham started from Assemblies of God. As a matter of fact, in his secondary school back then, because I know some of his classmates, they told me from Wesley High School, he was one of the FCS leaders in school. So he had always been this child that had passion for God. But you know, a parent is responsible for the child's
maybe
upbringing and behavior until the child begins to be on his or her own. So I want to believe that what happened to Abraham was influence. Abraham's problem was he didn't want to drop. The kind of friends he associated could have influenced him. The kind of things he was listening to could have gotten into him. And I think these were the things that influenced him. And when he started this whole thing, I told him, log off social media. At that time, social media was not this mad, but it was just picking up. I told him, I said, leave social media for your sanity's sake. Let us pray together as a family. I'm a very private person, and that's why for this number of years, I have not come out to say anything to anybody. People have approached me on several times, come say something, but within the last few weeks, the pressure became much. Within the last few days, I saw the need for me to just say something. What happened to him was influence. He was tongue-talking. We spoke in tongues together. We prayed together. He was filled with the Holy Ghost. Abraham preaches very well. He knew the Bible to its depth. But what happened to him was influence, like I said. And then when a man cannot curtail his taste for certain things, you know, the Bible says he who breaks the hedge, the serpent will bite. So I believe there were hedges he broke, and the serpent had no choice than to bite. If he had taken responsibility for his action when he was cautioned, when we were being redeployed to the headquarters from New Cairo, a lot of things could have been adjusted quickly. But he doesn't know how to take responsibility. for his actions. Instead of Abraham to accept that he was wrong, he will prove you that you are wrong. So in a whole gathering of 20 people, Abraham is right and every other person is wrong.
So at any point in time, though he had anger issues,
his younger brother was the one who does all the, fightings and all, but Abraham would rather drop money for you, not to fight. Like I said, I'm very heady. I used to be a fighter from school. So he will rather drop money for you not to fight than for you to fight. But if it comes to Abraham's words are not seasoned. So
he rather fight with his mouth.
Exactly. So he will talk aggressively, and then he will always want to be the one to win. So I always gave him chance to win. But when the matter became much in 2019, I told him no. At this point, you can't deflate my faith. And you cannot tell me what to do and what not to do with my life. I have freedom of worship, I have freedom of speech, I have freedom of movement as an adult. And one of the times he told me, because he agreed one time that okay, he was going to keep up social media, he was not going to do the whole write-ups and all that again. He agreed. And we sealed it with a condition. If you go back to this, I and my children will be off your life. And he agreed. So this was one of the reasons. In fact, he approached the court first for divorce. My lawyers are there to testify. He approached the court first for divorce. So when my lawyer went to, it was Lugbe customary court, he went to report, FHA. And when my lawyer went there to follow up on the case, they said he had gone. So upon my reaching home, he said no, that their tradition, they don't divorce their wives. Okay. So I was angry. I said, okay, in my tradition, we divorce. Because I am tired of this back and forth. And I am tired of your inconsistency. Moreover, I have 4 girls who will get married tomorrow. I have children who will be light bearers tomorrow. I don't want a situation where a negative influence from a bad parent will affect them. So if you know you cannot calm down for us to train these children, let me train them.
At least you are sure of what you are doing.
Yes, because I didn't want their upbringing to be mixed with this kind of, I'm not a Christian today, I want to be a Muslim tomorrow, I want to be this atheist tomorrow, I am not. No. That was not what I gave birth to them into. I don't want to introduce them to a life that myself can't live.
Okay, in your observation, you were there with him all through. You are somebody that has saw him closely. I mean, during his time at Dunamis. Do you think, in your opinion, that the church treated him well during his time there? What was your observation of the church's relationship?
Abraham was treated with, let me use the word partiality. They were partial to him positively.
You know, sometimes we want to use that, we want to say grace worked for him.
Yes, grace, favor. He was loved.
Yes.
He was too loved to the extent that I remember one time Abraham's car spoiled. We were in New Caro and he called Daddy that his car engine got knocked. It was during the fasting and prayer in January. And Daddy said, see me tomorrow after the break of fast. He came back with a new car.
Not the engine of the other one changed.
No, he came back with a new car. We were in New Caro, we were robbed. The very night we were robbed, the following day, Daddy said, your family is not sleeping in that house this night. find another, and we just renewed. In fact, Dunamis pays our rent.
Okay.
They pay your fueling allowance. Abraham was he was too loved. So they just renewed our rent at that time, 500,000 at that time. And Daddy said, find another house immediately. Within 4 days, we got another house, and they paid
Again.
without collecting back the other rent, because we were robbed there. This was how loved he was. I remember one time he was sick. 2014, November. I can't remember precisely the date now, but then I was home when they called me that he just slumped. They were in their Saturday evening prayers. The church accountant at that time and his assistant pastor back then called me. It was an emergency call. Oh, he's not breathing and all. And I rushed to the hospital where he was admitted, Nisi Hospital in Masaka. I'm giving all these places for you to detail so that you can do your findings. We went to Masaka. I was in Daddy Enenche, sir, see what happened to my husband you then, to come and pick Abraham from that hospital. They should move. In all sincerity, till this very moment that we are talking, I don't know how much was paid, but I know the bills ran in millions of naira. Dr. Andrew was the church's doctor. I think he was the head of the medicals at that time. I don't know if he still is. He was the one that did everything from beginning to the end. Abraham was on oxygen 3 times. That the NHS prayed for him more than 3 times. He sent us to different hospitals that we didn't try and err on his health, to ascertain what was wrong, because he was having breathlessness. They needed to check his heart, they checked his lungs, they checked everything to be sure that he was not asthmatic, to be sure that everything was clear. They had to do an MRI in their hospital in Karusai, was where they did the MRI. All this while, he was excused from preaching. His salary was not affected. One of the days, because of meeting up with hospital appointments, they said, okay, they lodged us in a hotel in Geriki so we could meet up with town. So we're in New Caro. Is it children's school fees they were paying when we're pastoring with them?
So it was paying school fees as well.
Yes. So Abraham was too favored. He was very, very favored. Daddy would travel abroad and buy Abraham shoes and shirts. When my late grandma passed on, this should be 12 years now, we were going for the burial. Mommy told him, you can't appear before your in-laws empty-handed. She said, we don't do this, but I will do it for you. Go to the bookshop admin. The admin at that time was Pastor Choga, and tell them that I said they should give you the bus, fuel it, to and fro. That will take your family to and fro with you to Otukpo for the burial. So we came with Dunamis bookshop bus for the burial.
Fueled by the church.
Not only fueled, Mommy gave us 2 bags of rice, plus other incentives. Okay, my son, we didn't plan for his birth. So the pregnancy You know, at that time, I and Abraham were already having issues. So we didn't even share any close bond. So we had an issue trying to make up, and then I conceived for my son. That pregnancy was one of the hardest period of my life. I've had 4 children before him, but that particular one was one of the hardest. He is preterm, but he is alive. When we went to the hospital for the emergency CS, it was during May conference in 2017. After my son was delivered, because I had him through CS, he had an issue. In fact, like 4 health complications that was almost leading to, if his enemy died. My auntie can attest to what I am saying, because she was the one who took him from the hospital where he was born to Geriki General Hospital. The documents are there at Vinet for verification in Geriki. I gave birth to him in Vinet Hospital, Geriki, and he was transferred to Geriki General Hospital for pediatricians to look at him with emergency. The notes are there. Dunamis was the one that cleared. Mommy was in London with daddy and Eneche at that period. And Abraham called them that this is what is going on. They kept praying for my son. He did 10 days in incubator, 5 days on oxygen, 3 days was on CPAP oxygen. I wasn't there because I was under knife pain, but I followed up on everything. I had to go and see my son on the 4th day because I wasn't sure that he was alive. And I told them I needed to be sure that he is alive. And mommy sent 500,000 from London to Abraham for us to clear the hospital bill. So some of the things we enjoyed while we were with the commission, I don't think some pastors who were there before him enjoyed it.
So I know you said he's a good preacher, he's good at that and all of that, but how was his spiritual leadership at home and even in church?
Shortly after we were posted, like I said, he became too proud for too many things. So that posting made me understand that Abraham was not a true Christian, because he could go on without fasting. At that time, it's like Abraham, he was too loved to be somebody who could have errors.
That love covered every shortcoming.
Truly. So even if I don't complain, are you sure? So I didn't want anybody to guess me. I kept my calm. But in the home front, I will say I saw a lot. I don't want to mention some now because my children will grow.
That's right.
They are growing. I don't want them to have a distorted growth, and I don't want them to have a second guess about their father. I don't want a situation where it will look like you are poisoning my children's minds against me. I want them to grow into it and see it. So too many things happened, but just to point out a few. When he resigned, he started a church.
Okay. He started his own ministry.
He started his own ministry in New Carroll. We started from my living room, and then it grew into one hall there. So I will tell him I won't go. Because I didn't understand at some point what he started preaching.
Mm.
I didn't understand at some point why we couldn't have devotion as a family anymore. I didn't understand at some point why some of the things we grew into as couples began to dwindle. So it gave me concern. It gave me a lot of concern. And that church didn't last up to 2 months. It didn't last up to 2 months because a lot of errors. Too many errors. And I told him, I am not in this with you. So when he finishes, I go online, do my service with my children, and
So since the divorce, is he fulfilling his responsibilities as a father?
no,
So
he is not.
He's presently not even engaged in their lives.
The children can attest to it themselves. Sometimes last year, I ran into a bad business with some bad business associates, and that kind of gave me a setback to the extent that I was courting with someone, and this person contacted Abraham.
The person you were squatting with?
Yes, with my children, contacted Abraham, and Abraham came. At that time, I already got a house. We spent 3 months with her.
Okay.
So I already got a house. Trying to move, Abraham came and took 4 of my children.
All girls.
3 girls and 1 boy.
Okay.
Yes. My first, the third, the fourth, and my son. And they went to his house. I can share the evidences of my conversation with my children while they were there with you. Heartbreaking. I have never subjected my children to that kind of living. No, not in such an environment, not within such a neighborhood, not with such a lifestyle. Too many things were wrong. Plenty things were wrong. I was sending them feeding money because they will tell me, Mommy, today we have not eaten and Daddy have gone out, and he said he will send money, and he will end up sending them 2,000.
4 of them.
Plus his wife.
Okay, at the time he was married.
He is married now.
Okay. At the time he already married another wife.
Yes. So the children will be crying, and my son, even if the others can endure, not such a young boy. And a mother cannot hear of such and be at rest. Because if my children, if you see them, they are healthy. I don't joke with 4 things: their well-being, their health, their education, and their feeding. I don't joke with them. So the little I can, I do for them. So when the children told me what they were going through, I'm like, that's your father. So what if I am not in the picture? Is this what you people will be going through? The children, I was home. Okay, I was at work when the younger brother called me one day. This was after 2 months I hadn't seen them, and the younger brother called me.
That's his own younger brother.
Yes, Abraham's younger brother. Sorry, auntie, have you seen the children? I said, no, the last time I saw them, your brother and yourself took them. what happened. He said that the brother's wife called him that they have not seen the children. I say, my children, nothing should happen to them. He said then that they just want to be sure that they are not with me. I said, okay. I got home and my children were there, sleeping in my place. Sleeping. So I waited for them to wake the following day and I asked them questions. How did you people get back? What brought you people back home? The story was heart-wrenching. My son came home with all manner of diseases that we just recently treated and still treating. They didn't go to school. My first daughter told me that he was going to look for a school where they will give them scholarship. I told them, I say, please, find your way back home. It's not that bad. I don't have anything against scholarship. But why should he not work for his children to go to good schools? So I told the younger brother, my children must go to school and they should not go to any school less than the standard of what they were going when they were in my place. He said, okay. Like I said, I will be mindful with some of the things I say because of my children. They are growing. I don't want a situation where the media, social media, will remind them of certain things tomorrow in their future. I want to be mindful with too many things, you know. They are already grown. Like I said, my first daughter is 20, my second is 19, the third will be 18 soon. So they know to a large extent some of these things. So when they grow, they can tell they are left from right. But so far, I think I am the one in their lives.
But so he made some disparaging comments about Dr. Paul Enenche and the Dunamis Church. I'm sure you would have heard or seen some of those interviews online where he said that the miracles, especially that are being performed in Dunamis, are being staged or faked. Like people are being paid kind of to come and stage these things. Do you agree with this?
I don't agree with it, because Abraham should know that Dr. Paul and Becky Enenche are very thorough people. They are people who are very passionate about scrutiny. So before any testimony, because Abraham worked in the bookshop for many years before he became a minister and a pastor, he knows that before the Seeds of Destiny publication goes out, there is scrutiny of most of the testimony, if not all the testimonies, before they are printed. And if there is any iota of lie, Daddy immediately we tell them, pull it down. We are not begging for testimonies. So we don't make testimonies. That's why when people give testimony and make comments like, and I want to thank Daddy Enenche, he will immediately say, not to me. In fact, there will be a moment of worship and then prayers of mercy. That is how fearful Daddy Enenche can be with touching the glory of God. I can tell you for free that no miracle in Dunamis is arranged. I have been a benefactor of many testimonies. Like I said, I used to be a heady child growing up. Prayers, I learned how to pray fervently in Dunamis. I learned how to study the word effectively from Dunamis. I did my foundation, maturity class, and Bible school in Dunamis, and this helped in grinding my spiritual life. So you cannot say miracles are being worked. Let me put it that way in that place. No. All the miracles, signs, wonders we see in Dunamis. I'm still a bona fide member of the commission. My children are still members of the commission. My son is a bundle of that testimony. One of the testimonies. Many. Even when we left the commission, within this number of years that Abraham's issue happened and we left the commission, we were benefactors of these testimonies. This I am telling you are subject to confirmation, because these hospitals you go, just mention what I am telling you and they'll bring out the cases. My son fell and had a broken head that was leading to him fitting and loss of life. We were redirected to National Hospital. This was in 2023, February, 2 years ago. I made demand on the unction of that commission because I reminded God that I remember I didn't ask you for this child. And based on this testimony we had when he was born, on oxygen, he was blue, had heart issue. The records are there in Garki and the hospital where I gave birth to him. And God, you brought him back to life. I stand on the premise of that testimony. And I say, this one, the devil will not snatch him off. We didn't do more than few hours. And my son was fine. Few months down the line, my fourth daughter woke up on a wheelchair. She was fine before this time. Spent 3 days on wheelchair. And I made demand. I even met one of the choir members in church, in the hospital, FMC. I'm making references to this place so that you can do your findings. And within 4 days, my daughter was okay. Since that time till now, she is perfectly fine, walking on her feet. I used to be on BP drugs. These are my testimonies, minus that of some of my children. I used to be on BP drugs. But I'm no more on BP drugs. I made demand on the oil of the commission. Till tomorrow, I and my children still benefit from commanding the day prayers at night. Some days ago, he was praying, Daddy was praying, and he mentioned a case concerning me. This was 3 days into the fast. At night, and he mentioned a case concerning me. And that gave me the answer that I needed for the year. So I can boldly tell you that Abraham is just a vindictive person that is just seeking attention unnecessarily and is not ready to make amends with life. This is 5 years. He should move on. Let's all move on.
I know you already said in the course of the testimony that Dynamis Church did not abandon people at any point in time.
No.
And even in your time of difficult and everything. Now, I would just move on to ask that your first daughter recently celebrated her 20th birthday. You said it several yourself here. She went ahead to seek or chose to seek the blessings of Daddy Paul Enenche and his wife on her birthday. What do you think informed that decision? What does this gesture say concerning your relationship?
Before, like I said, before this time, Abraham's actions and inactions have cost us too much. At some point, I left the church, Dunamis, and started fellowshipping in another church, which I don't want to talk about here because the experience was bitter. And that bitter experience led to too many things that I don't want to say on air. And these are decisions that I made because of, people are talking. You are Abraham's wife, you are related to Abraham, and still coming to church, antagonism from here, there, and there, and then the flesh, one could always be uncomfortable in a place where you have been so favored, you have been loved, and all of a sudden, this is happening. It is human for me to think of, let me just step aside and go to another place. And after that ugly experience, 2023, towards the end, we returned back to Dunamis. I was not in touch with mommy and daddy until April last year, when my daughter sent mommy a message that I was in trouble. And mommy gave us 1 million.
As at this time, the family and the church are no longer like together. If we're talking about your husband,
I didn't even have the courage to send them a message. You can verify from them.
you still went ahead. So that love,
She said, tell your mother to see me. I didn't even have the courage to look into her eyes when I saw her. After that period, I felt like, okay, maybe, this kind of, I was really under guilt. After this number of years, these people still have our thoughts at heart. And then we were coming to church regularly, joining the activities and all. So on the 10th, my daughter sent daddy a message that she's clocking 20 and she would like to have a parental blessing from him and mommy. And he said, why not? Come, let me pray for you. And she went. And that again, I will say, is the beginning of another process of acceptance. Like, you are not the one that offended me. I have nothing. Daddy said, you didn't offend me. I have nothing against you. Did I tell you to leave the church? I said no. Did I mention to you people never to step your feet into the church? So why should you leave? In all of this, I can tell you that if you have not met the person of Dr. Paul and Becky Enenche, you will not know who they are. So, people insinuating these things and clapping for Abraham should try and make their findings before jumping into conclusion. My second daughter and my first daughters have ministries that God have placed in their hands. And I can tell you that they are doing very well in their various fields.
wow, that's as a single mother, how are you coping with the new reality? What are the challenges you face? And how are you finding strength?
I am finding strength on the pillar of God. It's not easy being a single mom of 5. Not very easy, but I can tell you it could be challenging, but then all the time when I'm faced with issues, I just ask God for strength. If I am faced with things I cannot go through on my own. I asked the Holy Spirit for help. In all this, my faith did not derail. I am still a bona fide child of God. My children are serving God. When I am at a crossroad, the only pillar I have is God. And I ask him for strength. I tell him, you are the husband to the husbandless, the father to the fatherless. I am fatherless. My children are fatherless. Help me. And I draw strength from the word of God, from worship and prayers. I don't want anything to deflate my faith. That's why when people, before I wake up in the morning, people will send me the link to that podcast Abraham did. And I don't want to open it. I don't want anything to deflate my faith.
Wow. Okay, so lastly, before we wrap this up, he claimed in an interview that you were used against him. What is your take on that? Do you believe there were external influences?
Nobody influenced me. I'm an adult. Nobody influenced me. And like I said when I started the introduction, I have my freedom of speech. I have my freedom of worship. I have my freedom of movement. So I have a right to say, I choose to worship in this place. I choose to remain a Christian, and so shall it be for me. That is it for my children. Now, I saw in several write-ups where he has said, Dunamis gave me 200,000 to have a divorce. I want to ask him a question. Is that what our marriage was worth to him?
Okay, to him now.
To him. Because I have 5 children from this marriage. So would you tell me that 200,000 is what my marriage was? A marriage that even my family, I went against them for your sake, Abraham. And you are saying that 200,000 was given to me by Dunamis to divorce you. Dunamis has given him millions of naira. What is 200,000? So you mean, even when I told daddy that I was divorcing, he said, I am not hearing this now. And I will not give you a yes or no answer now. Go and pray about it. Come back to me. Not tomorrow, not next tomorrow. Not next week, not next month. This was in 2019. He said, at any time you have prayed about it and you are convinced that you want to be divorced, you can come back. That was the last time I saw that the Enenche to discuss my marriage issue with him. And that I could say would be the first also. Because I never went to him to complain whether Abraham was giving me headache or stomach ache or making me uncomfortable. He called me out of concern. Not that I went to him. I heard you are in court. Why? And I gave him reasons. And he said, don't give me your response now. I'm telling you this for free. Nobody influenced me. My family didn't even know that I was in court, apart from my younger sister and my auntie. Because I was already tired. I got married at 21. I divorced at 35. And I am happy. This is 5 years down the line. I'm excited that I'll have to do this with my children all by myself.
So I understand that categorically nobody used him against him.
Nobody.
So,
except his character.
His character. So he did that.
Yes.
When was the last time you saw him?
I saw him last November 2024. Last year. And that was in court. Briefly. I was even talking to him and he was snubbing me. Till date, my children are struggling with what to wear because he seized their clothes. Because when they left his house, they came with nothing. My son was wearing 3 boxers. 2 shirts. My first daughter was wearing a bomb short and a shirt. So everything they're having now is like, I have to just be picking for them, starting afresh. I told him, I said, please, can they have their ways? He said, the way they left, they will come back. And he told me, if I don't see them, I'll burn them. He can do it. So me, I don't want to be involved in any banter with him. If it's the cloth that is your problem, carry it.
So if you say today, what would you advise?
I will advise him to retrace his steps. Think about his past. Think about the fact that you are, there is an adage in Domaland that it is the child of a rich man that should misbehave. The child of a poor man should not misbehave. Think about where you are coming from and have a rethink. Think about the fact that you have 4 lovely daughters. Rethink. Think about the fact that you have a son plus the one you just gave birth to. And rethink, you are a father. You are not that yopi person that, of course, you have your life, but then live for your children. Be responsible.
Well,
lastly, live for Christ.
Wow.
I know he might not like that statement, but live for Christ. Because in him we move, we live, and have our being. Outside Christ, we are nothing. I don't know about him, but personally, outside Christ, I am nothing. So live for Christ. And that's the ideology that my children also have. Outside God, they are nothing.
If he today realizes his mistakes and apologizes, and he returns.
No, I've moved on. I've moved on, sir. He has moved on and I've moved on. He is married. He is married now, and in all sincerity, I gave him time for us to have had a rethink. So I'm young. I will get married again. He is already married. So watch out for my wedding invitation.
Okay. I think I don't need to start giving it all. Thank you so much for
Thank you, sir.
Encounter this afternoon.
Thank you.
It's been very insightful. Like I said to you during the short break we had, there's so much we don't know out there.
Sure.
Even with you trying not to say everything for the sake of the children's future.
I put my children into consideration.
We've heard that we don't know has been the case
Sure.
all this while, and I think the truth is always the truth, no matter how it is presented, no matter where it is presented.
Sure.
Now we'll leave everything for the viewers out there who have seen or heard what he has said. By the time they listen to this, we know what the truth is.
Sure.
Even without being told. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.